welcome Mr. John Popper from Blues Travel. It's okay if John hangs out a little while. Is that all right? Hey, are we gonna have some fun tonight or what?
Hey man, I just want to chat with you real quick about we're doing this reunion show for my buddies at We Rock Cancer, some friends of mine who started this amazing foundation in the DC area. And I've helped them with a few other smaller projects, but they've really gotten some wings and they're starting to do bigger annual shows. And the Capital One Hall is a brand new theater in Tysons Corner area. They got rid of the corner. They got rid of the corner name. I learned that quick on the first draft of the poster. I grew up in that area. So
cool.
I've been in Rhode
my
Island
parents
for
live
20
there. They're in
years.
Chevy Chase. My parents are in
okay.
Chevy Chase. My brother's in Bethesda, I want to say.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful room. It's there's a lot of great venues in DC, but this one is like, right off the Beltway. It's a nice little spot. So we're excited to be there October 14th. And with you doing a sort of a reunion nod to that night, and it's probably came and went in your memory, but to us and our fans, it was like an epic evening of me leaving the Bayou in Georgetown after a 2-night run up to the first night, and you pull up at 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning. I don't know. And I
just getting the hell away from my family reunion up the street as my cousin.
Yeah, I think you were like, this is pre-GPS, and you're like, I know where the Bayou is. Yeah. I don't know where the Watergate Hotel is. How do I get there? And I said, I'll tell you how to get there. You said, if you tell me how to get there, I'll sit in with you tomorrow night. I'm like, you're committing to a band you do not know. You don't. We could have been a death metal band. You have no idea, as far as I can tell.
Yeah.
And you said, go buy these harps and meet me here. Make sure there's a cone in front of this building tomorrow, and I'll come up and play with you. And we had no confirmation. It was just pre-cell phone. I couldn't confirm it. I just said, this is what John said he was going to do, so we better put the damn cone out there. And you're a man of your word. You are a man of your word, because you showed up and I'll never forget.
And
you said,
fun.
"Oh my God." The best part about that, or maybe for the people worst part for the people that weren't getting in, there was a massive line down the street of the Bayou down there, and they saw you get out of your car, and they were like, "Oh, we're gonna miss this. This is happening," and because the people inside, you enter from the back of the club, right, and they couldn't see you. So you came out, and I'll never forget it was Beatlemania level of screaming on that Bayou mosh pit floor. So I can't thank you enough for that night. Yeah, and the thing about that night that really stuck with me, not just the music part, that was incredible, because you could have left and you didn't. And when I went to listen to the bootlegs of it, I mean, it went on for 4.5 hours, and you could have bolted at any point, and you didn't. There's many times where you said you could have bailed out. And not only that, you stuck around after the show and sat with me on the back steps and talked business and shop and gave me all sorts of pointers. And
that was a great night.
You really extended some wisdom and some generosity with your time. And so that's like one of my first questions is, you helped us. You took us out on the Horde tour. You took us out on Blues Traveler shows. You brought us to Red Rocks, all kinds of things. And was there a band that did that for you? Was there an artist that heard Blues Traveler in their days in Princeton? And who was that?
I think originally it was, my high school band teacher got me into playing music. So like, that's a guy. And then you look at a band like John O'Manson. He and I just did a solo record that's out today, but we met him when we were in New York City, just starting out, and we just found this place, the Nightingale's Bar, and it seemed like a slightly more tolerant bar than Dan Lynch's, which was next door, and that was more traditional blues. We weren't traditional blues, so they didn't know what to do with us. And the Nightingales, I saw Jono play with his band, Joey Miserable and the Worms, and they were just running that bar, and they kind of took us under their wing. And we could open for them and stuff, and we'd get the Mondays, they'd get the Saturdays, and eventually, we kind of prospered beyond that place. But then there was also the Allman Brothers. Bill Graham got us working, touring, opening for the Allman Brothers, and we'd play for 40 minutes, and then it was like we were in school. Like you just clap
Yeah, let me
That's
show you this. This is this is my level of love of the Allman Brothers.
yeah. Oh yeah.
And I couldn't believe I could get this in Virginia. No one else had that. And so that's incredible that
At one
they
point,
came in and reached out to you like that.
well, Bill Graham,
Bill.
they trusted Bill Graham, and he knew that we needed seasoning, and they said we reminded them of them when they were young. I'm.
Can you imagine?
It's kind of a weird honor, but Greg Allman intermittently would be convinced that I was taking over the Allman Brothers. Like years later, like Warren hired me to come sit in with them at the Beacon Theater,
Right.
and Greg. Dickie Betts told Greg, see, they're bringing Popper in to replace people, and they're going to replace you. And so then Greg wouldn't allow me to sit in. They flew me out to New York. Greg had thrown a tantrum because he thought I was secretly, covertly taking over the Allman Brothers.
Oh my
And
God.
and he wouldn't even look at me. He was mad at me. And like years later, intermittently, he would forget he was mad at me, or decide that he was mad at me then, like this just happened. It was like almost like a form of senility. He couldn't keep it straight. So you'd see Greg and he'd be like, hey, Greg. And either he'd be like, hey, man, how's it going? Or he wouldn't respond to you. And like he was arbitrarily mad at me and loved me the last few years of his life.
Oh,
and then, of course, I told this story in my book. It was hysterical about him and, oh, my God, Robbie Robertson. Some kid. And I heard he got mad that I told that story, but there was no way it was my book. I had to tell a Greg Allman story. I mean,
absolutely.
My life just wasn't that interesting.
Oh, come on. I mean, he sang on Mountain Cry, and he must have.
Oh, yeah.
Done,
well, that was what the story was
willingly.
about. He wanted 10% of our record for doing that. And then he takes me to sit in with Robbie Robertson. And the opening band is there, and they're really and Robbie is taking some drug backstage. It's making him go like the Aflac duck. I'm not kidding.
Oh my God!
And so he's not coming out. So Greg, what's supposed to be Robbie Robertson and friends at the Lone Star Roadhouse, was the opening band with Greg Allman, and then he called me up and of course said, "I'll go see what's taking Bobby," and that meant we're never going to see Greg again either. So it wound up being me and the opening band. Did the whole night, and we come back, and the two of them were on the couch just howling at the moon. And Greg goes, "I decided I want 20%." And I'm like, I'll talk to the guys. He's like, "Don't talk to the guys. You make it happen." And I stumbled into like the thing that got me out of all of it. I said, "You're breaking my heart," and like, I got all like fanboy on him, and I said, "You're breaking my heart." Like he was like, "Oh man, never mind. I'll do it for nothing." And like he said, he'll do it for free.
Oh my God!
He was like a sweet guy beneath the demon. But and another thing I learned is never play cards with Greg Allman, even when he's drunk. Especially when he's drunk, was the wickedest card player I've ever seen. And the drunker he got, the better he got.
Oh wow!
Man,
okay.
He played me.
I mean, we were fortunate to do a couple summers with those guys. One where Dickie was in the band, one when he was not, and there were two drastically different times. The vibe of the tour completely different.
Dickie knew karate. I heard.
I'm sorry.
I heard Dickie knew karate, and when he was drunk, he would use it. You know, they say you're not supposed to use karate unless it's an emergency. He would get drunk and just use it.
Some Elvis shit. That's incredible. I never witnessed any. Never witnessed any chops by Dickie.
I saw that. But one night, when the last night we played when he was in the band, he got arrested for punching a cop, and Jimmy Herring and me and I think it was Jimmy Herring and me got to sit in all night with the Allman Brothers in Stowe, Vermont, and it was I mean, we were youngsters, and it was
he wasn't there. I can remember going to see them at Meriwether Post in high school, and Dickie wasn't there because of an incident like that. And I'm just this high school kid with an Allman Brothers license plate, and I stormed back to the gate thinking I'm going to get my money back because Dickie's Betts is not here, and they don't know, they didn't care. They said, "Have a nice night.
I want my money."
Who's this guy playing guitar? I think it was, what's his name now? I think he might even be in Little Feat. He was Mellencamp's guitar player. I forget his name. Anyway, he was great. He was great, but I was just in a world of like, where is he? So man. Well, that's incredible. that now when you guys started, did that sound? I mean, so I have this distinct memory. My brother had a friend at Princeton. My brother's 5 years older than me, and he brought this CD back, your first record. He put it on. I'd never heard anything like that in my life. And I said, what is this? What is this? Like, this is a specific genre of music that I'd never even heard. And did it come like from the first rehearsal, the first jam? I mean, I know a lot of it hangs on your.
No, depends which tape you're talking about.
Well, I'm just talking
Remember
about
back
your first record.
our first record is when I guess the progression was we were in New York playing, and we were playing a bunch of colleges up up in I think it was Harlem. I think it was Barnard.
Okay.
And Bill Grant's son Dave saw him, and we were just starting to get solicited by managers, but Bill really was interested in us.
Right.
And that's what led to the Allman Brothers stuff like that. So it was really us playing parties. I think I wanted to be Jimi Hendrix, and Brendan wanted to be Bonham, and Bobby wanted to be in the Grateful Dead, and Chan wanted to be Jimmy Page. And so we were just kind of channeling. It was like a garage band.
That's
really
the perfect
started
mix. Yeah, I mean, as I'm going through these songs that we're going to do together at Capital One in October, I'm listening to these records that I've listened to thousands of times, and it comes rushing back. I'm just like, this band sounds like nobody. It sounds like nobody else. It's very specific. Chan's playing is. I'm not surprised that Page is his guy. Like, I can hear that, but it doesn't.
And then he had to be dealing with a harmonica in the band, and that made him have to cover a weird space.
Right.
Like, he was our only chordal instrument in the band, if you think about it.
Right.
So that really put a lot of pressure on him in the early days. You know, when we got the keyboard player, it really opened us up to a lot of things that Chan kind of wanted to do and didn't get to do. But that is what made us unique. It was that we had a really great rhythmic approach, I think, you know, in the early days. Bobby he couldn't learn past 2 chords.
Oh, yeah. Well, Bobby's
like, his memory was just terrible, but yeah, he knew how to thump that thing.
Oh my God, it was like the perfect mix of just this rolling thunder bass, but lots of melody in there, and Brendan's like just absolutely rock solid. I mean,
that was the key. I think Brendan was the key to the whole thing. You know, like, if you have a drummer that you can lean on like that, then you can commit all manner of sin.
Absolutely. I mean, we I don't know if you're aware of it, but we share a shared tragedy of losing a band member. And our drummer, Chris, our founding drummer, he passed away in 2006 suddenly. And
man,
it was just a wrecking ball through our band. It really was. And and what I miss most that he's not around is that he's not here for us in our 50s doing our thing and being able to sip it.
Like, to meet his kid. That's what I always think about with Bobby, is like, he would have been a great dad. He'd made it to that dad time in his life.
Chris was a great dad all the time. Like, he was like an uncle. He was the guy that played. I was the first guy to have kids in the band, so he was all over my daughters. My daughters are now in college, but they were little then, and he was just the best. And I do know that. And he was like a sort of pseudo stepdad to a son, or his girlfriend's son. So I miss that he doesn't get to experience this part of that. And I see your joy in your daughter.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Oh yeah. I don't remember like the ambition I used to have. I try to remember it, but there's no way to have that. You have kind of once in your life.
Oh yeah.
That all or nothing. This is, there's going home. There's victory or death. That whole attitude.
Yeah, we felt the same way as a band that just like, we're coming into this town. We're gonna like a bunch of Vikings. Yep. We're just gonna keep going. Exactly. And we never sort of stopped to be like, ooh. I mean, when you brought us to Red Rocks on that one run, and our next show was our biggest show of our career, which was it was already sold out. It was at Wolf Trap, the Filene Center in DC, and we were an independent band who sold the place out. We were like, and when that was already set in stone,
and that was like your hometown. That was like your hometown win too,
Oh yeah, and you said, "Hey man, can you stick around and sing No Woman No Cry for the encore at Red Rocks?" And sadly, I had to finish and get in a car and get it on a red eye to get to DC because I couldn't risk flying the day of to a show. It was a sad I want to go back in time and have the balls to be like,
Well,
you
we'll
know
do
what?
that again.
I
We're
would
still
love that.
here. We can do that. Yeah, it's
Absolutely. There's
easy
time
enough.
for all these things, man. Yeah. So
Mhm.
speaking of like the Horde tour, that was a very inspiring thing for me to witness. And I have two little music festivals that I do, and one's 14 years running, and the others is in 3 weeks. It's in Rhode Island. It's 7 years, and
Cool.
you know, it's a blast. I bring in all the artists that I've always thought are incredible that people may or may not know. It's really my way of like giving a stage to people. We have one stage at one. The artists just don't compete with each other. But I mean, you doing the Horde tour was so inspiring for bands like us coming up. And are you thinking
Thanks,
maybe
man.
that will one day resurface or?
Yeah, we talk about it. They're making a documentary about it.
Oh,
And so
nice.
there is a model where that got like that brought some tours back after they made a movie about it. So they're
Right,
just finishing up this. It was the anniversary. I think they started it in 22, and it was the
right.
uh, 30th anniversary of Horde. So like that's basically they've
Wow.
gone and interviewed all of us.
Oh, that's
So
killer.
hopefully that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
man. Well, if it hits
yeah.
the road, you sign us up. So
Hell
the writing
yes, of course.
gotta be a blast. So the writing process for you guys, is it one way or is it all over the map?
At this point, it's all over the map. I mean, generally, I'm the lyric guy,
Right,
and we'll take somebody's riff, and as a band, we kind of like work it out and turn it into some kind of a song,
right,
and then I go and put on it.
right.
Occasionally, they
That's
bring some words, but being the vocalist, it's just kind of easier.
right, right, right. Well, what else did I want to talk to you about? You know, New Potato Caboose is on this show with us. Do you have a
Oh,
memory of
cool!
that band?
Absolutely.
So they claim I asked, so Red, their B3 player, John Red Redling,
Uh-huh.
he's an old friend and he plays with me from time to time. He'll be there. He was going to play on the show anyway, and I was like, well, why don't we get Caboose to play because they're back together again playing. He said, man, I think it was, I don't know.
Awesome.
He says, ask Popper if he remembers Blues Travel New Potato Caboose at Chestnut Cabaret in Philly.
Yes, that's
Each
the
band
one.
got a bottle of Jaeger. The first band to finish the bottle won. Blues Traveler is only 4 guys. New Potatoes 7 guys. Blues Traveler won.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it was the first show my father-in-law came to. He said you
We
sat in on
we
Throw Rug Blues.
Yes, I remember the contest. I don't remember after the contest.
So,
But yeah, we had a problem. You got that right.
oh, yeah. Well,
That
we
doesn't
kind of
surprise me at all. I think we were
no.
kind of legendary in our consumption.
Hey, man,
Yeah.
that's all right. We took a gig with you guys when you did the High Plains Drifters thing. Now was Jono on that? Um,
Yeah, that
that
was
you
John O. Chan, Bobby, really. I would be on that if they were near, New York or something, but they took that
well,
on the road.
we did a show in Aspen with you at the Double Diamond, and it was you. I thought Eric is guitar player from Spin Doctors.
Yeah, Eric Shankman.
Yeah. And I remember
That was
taking that
Wasabi.
gig.
I think the Wasabi gig. I don't think Eric played on the High Plains Drifter gig, but he
Oh,
could
okay.
have. I mean,
Right. Well, whatever that gig was, it was an absolute blast. And we took it because back then we were like, we got to be associated in this. We were so honored that we were even asked. And so we took that
oh, you guys were
gig
killing me.
on a Friday night. Well, thank you. And Sunday night was our show in DC at, again, freaking Colorado to DC because we always had, that's where the money was for us. So we got to drive all the
Yep,
way
yep.
home. We drove 37 hours from Aspen to play a St. Patrick's Day party on a Sunday in DC.
That must have
The
smelled fantastic. Just
oh
the
my
odor
God,
alone.
the odor in that van. We actually rented a second van from like back when you could rent conversion vans with like that people
Yep.
clearly took on hideous vacations and they never cleaned it out with like the old
Yeah,
school
right.
tube TV up in the thing with a VCR.
Oh, yeah.
We would
I
stop at truck
love it.
plazas and get movies. But my God, so like, do you remember your earliest days and some insane travel story that you're like, yeah, we had to go from here to here, and back in
Oh,
the
I mean,
van days.
they're all pretty much that. Yeah, I think the one that always strikes me really, it was our first time driving across the U.S. in a van because we had a gig in California. I think it was for
Oh
New Year's,
wow.
and we're back, and we had two vans. There was the Scud van, which was the there was the Patriot and the Scud. And the Scud was the equipment. No, the black van, and then the black van there was three vans. There was the band van, which was the Patriot, and then there was the crew van, which was the Love Scud. They called it the Love Scud. And then our equipment van, black stealth van. And we're driving the black stealth across from our first gig in LA, and we're in Flagstaff, Arizona, and we stop at the stop sign and go, "Is this Arizona?" Because we weren't sure. And as we say that, a tumbleweed blows by, and we look at each other and run after the tumbleweed and wrestle it down, put it in the van, and take it back to New York with us, where it stayed over the bar of like our local bar there.
Oh, that's amazing.
But yeah, that's how we were all excited about drive. You know, that first drive across, you feel like you're friggin' Columbus or something. Like you're gonna fall off the edge. You go there.
Oh my God!
I just love that first drive across.
It's incredible, right? We had something called Mexican Worm Boy that we purchased at a truck plaza in like God knows where in Texas. That thing, we lost everything, but we couldn't lose the stupid stuffed animal that was like duct taped to inside of the club wagon.
Yes,
and we use it as a GPS. We would ask what Mexican Worm Boy, how do we get to Phoenix from here? And we would pretend that it was telling us.
It was for Wilson, the talking volleyball. Exactly.
Totally.
It's your religion, your friend. It's what keeps you not afraid at night.
It is. It does. I don't know. The van days, you can think back and be like, at least I do, and go, man, the travel's brutal. My back still hurts from sitting on a 90-degree club wagon bench. But I mean, the shows were tighter because we were all hanging together all day long. And it was like the more exhausted we were, the shows were looser and tight. It felt,
tighter and looser. But you were like a greased, well-oiled machine. Yeah, I know that one. You lived it. It was your life.
Yeah, and if you would fly to a gig, it was a mess.
Sure. Yes, it was wonderful.
Right.
You can't do that. That's something you can only do when you're a young man.
That is right.
That is true. I mean, I guess you could if you had to. Like, it's amazing what you can do when you have to do it. But when we were young, we had to do it, and nobody was paying us a lot to do it. So we had to go out and make that work,
100%.
And that was tough. Yeah.
Hey, are you familiar with the Immediate Family band that exists right now? It's the band that I did my record with that you also played on. Leland Sklar, Russ Kunkel, Danny Korchmar, all the guys that play with Jackson, James, Linda Ronstadt, Waddy Wachtel. So and Steve Postel. So those guys are out as the Immediate Family. They actually have a documentary that's coming out real soon
cool.
about how they kind of like, the Cutting Crew. But the section was who Carole King used, and then everybody else. So they're out touring. It's a great show because they play all the songs that they were ever associated with or wrote on. And between it's a freaking amazing show. Those guys get into one of those. It's a Mercedes, but it's still a van. And I helped them load in Cape Cod to do a gig, and these guys are in their 70s, and they all pull up, and they're like, Leland just got off tour with Phil Collins, and he's climbing in the back of the van to try and get some merch out. And I'm like, let me help you count your merch in, man.
Yep.
It's like, you don't have to do that. Dude.
See, I'm a little bit the opposite. Ever since, even when we were touring around in like cars, like our bass player's mom's Peugeot station wagon, or the first thing, from day one, I was always faking a back injury when it came to camera gear, and I just knew that I had to wait it out until we afford crew members, and then I was free. And I was eventually they just got used to me going, I can't quite lift it. Like I tried to avoid manual labor from day one.
I like to admit
that was like
my Our piano player Jonathan, he convinced us that he could. There you go. Jonathan who is now a police officer. He always convinced us that he sucked at driving, so he didn't have to drive anywhere. He
they knew I sucked at driving. My band knew that I sucked, but no one would let me near the wheel. No.
Man. Well, it came to be that was one of the most comfortable seats in the van. So you're like, I could either be comfortable and drive, or I gotta like.
Always wanted to drive, but they just knew that I was a little too crazy for that.
Yeah, and the Jaeger didn't help. So, well,
that was not my.
Yeah, right. Well, I've just, there's very few musicians that when you hear them, between your vocal and your harmonica playing that you have created your own, like, it's very emotive. It's almost like when someone hears, now when we all hear Derek Trucks, we know from a mile away that's Derek Trucks playing. I can hear it.
Yeah.
You've created your own thing there, and it's incredible. And just like, do you ever sit back and go, well, look what the hell I did with this harmonica. This is freaking amazing.
It's weird. Yeah, it's strange, but people do that. I try to it's hard to really look back at what you've done,
No, I
it's
understand.
amazing. Every now and then I'll be like, wow, I've done some cool shit. And then you'll look back at it at the same time and go, man, there's all this stuff that I really wanted to do. So like,
Right.
who can
Yeah.
say?
Yeah, that's what I would say to you. Another question of collaborating. I mean, I can't believe some of the collaborations I was going into YouTube. I'm like, you played with Steve Vai? That was insane. Like, just people.
Yeah.
First off, what's the weirdest sit in, and then what's one that you're like, I wish I could do that. We haven't done that yet. That'd be cool.
Well, Dolly Parton hired me for my voice. That was pretty weird. Like the
That's
fact that
amazing.
Dolly Parton knew who I was and like knew me for my singing voice. This was back when I was like the harmonica guy, I mean,
Right.
it was rare. But the same thing happened one other time, and that was Paul Simon heard my singing voice and wanted me to do something. And the thing is, Paul
Wow.
Simon figured out my trick, which is what I would do when it came to harmonica playing. Because they both, Dolly and Paul, wanted me to play harmonica, of course.
Right.
But Paul usually, he had a specific line in mind. This was the second time I sat in with him for a record, and he wanted me to play a specific line. And normally, what I do is go, it's best. People find they get good results when I just like blow and do whatever I want, blow a couple of tracks, and then you can edit whatever you want. And that was my way of not having to like focus on specific melodies people had or learn to sight read or anything like that.
Right.
So I would just distract them with, hey, here's some ideas I've got, and hopefully they'd like. Paul, when I said that to Paul, he goes, yeah, but that makes a lot more work for me having to find that stuff, so I'd rather you do exactly what I say. Oh fuck.
Oh yeah. Wait, what?
Normally half maybe, and it took like 8 hours to finally get that exact thing. And he wound up not even using it anyway. But yeah.
Oh man, that I've had that moment where they're like, "Can you do this?" I'm like, "Why don't I just play a bunch of solos or just sing a bunch of takes?" Because you're stressing me out.
Like our shit, we get away with a lot when people like our stuff, because then you like try.
Right.
It doesn't.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So, is there anyone that you're like, man? Is there a new artist that you're like, man? I'd like to sit in with those guys? Or
I think her.
Oh, right. Yeah. That would be amazing.
Awesome. I don't know when I'll ever get to. I would love to. Prince is the one that got my mind. Like, we almost knew some of the same people. We did know some of the same people, but I never got in a room where I got to play with that guy.
Oh.
And there's this harmonica player, Frederic Yannet. He's from France, and he actually lives around DC, I think.
Oh.
And he's a black harmonica player who is just dazzling. And he and I got to play with Stevie Wonder, and Stevie wanted both he and I to play harmonica parts, and he'd written out specific parts. And I don't know how to like that. But luckily, Frederick not only wrote out all of my parts, he played them for me on individual files that he had done. And so I knew my part, saved my butt. But he got to play. He was like Prince's regular harmonica player. I didn't even know Prince had a harmonica player.
Nor did I. I'm learning that now.
He's such a badass that of course Prince didn't need to go far to get a great harp player, and it was Freddie, who's really just one of the amazing. So like there's harp players out there, and we all like to get a lot of our of space apparently. Like Jason Ricci's another monster harmonica player, and he'll take some of my work. Like they always want the motherfucker harmonica player. So I'll get work. Freddie will get work. Jason will get work. If Paul Butterfield was alive, he'd get work. But that's the thing. You wind up working with a lot of people. I definitely took a weird approach, but there's more of that. There's this kid, LD Miller, is an amazing harmonica player, and was when he was 13 years old. And they introduced him from America's Got Talent. You know, they had me go on the show and meet him because he was just this little prodigy.
Right.
And I just, a couple of weeks ago, he's like in his 30s. I keep thinking of him as like a kid.
Oh my God,
I
funny.
guess that same happens with Derek Trucks too, because we were hanging out with Derek since he was like 17. And
Right.
now he's like an adult man with a life and a family.
Right.
It's just,
I know,
but that's what
right?
happens. Yeah, we're all
Yeah.
getting older and growing, and there's more families and things. And you know, like I was talking about that hunger. I kind of like what I have now. You know, like the reason they're the good old days is that we're not doing them anymore. You know, if we had to smell
Right.
a van the same way, you know, even those
No.
older guys you were talking about, they got in a Mercedes van. That's a lot better than when it was a
Yeah.
you know, a
It wasn't.
used parents Ford,
Oh yeah.
whatever the fuck.
And you wasn't sure if you're going to make it even there. Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
think about when I started my band, one of the guys in my band, Al, was
Uh-huh.
36 and I was 22. He looked like he was 25, but he was 36. I think about it all the time. I remember when he turned 40 and we were at a casino in Memphis, and I'm like, wow, dude, you're 40 and we're in our 20s, everyone else in the band, and we just, and he'll be there. You'll see him. He'll be at the show,
Yeah.
and
Oh, cool.
he'll be the happiest guy on stage. And he just, what he put up with from our animalistic behavior, I can't even believe he didn't bail after 2 weeks. I mean, I give him a lot of credit. I mean, so I just want to close and say, you know, we're doing this show for We Rock Cancer, and they do this amazing thing where this is a friend of mine who went through skin cancer and caught it early, and he's going to be just fine.
Oh.
But I know some people who have actually passed away from it. Jimmy Buffett just passed away from skin cancer. I guess I'm sure most people think, oh, well, he's this guy that lives in the sun. Well, yeah, but it's also highly detectable. And so We Rock Cancer brings dermatologists to the show, and there'll be like booths outside. Fans can go in there and get an initial check, like a 30-second look over before you go into the concert. And they've actually found some things on people to be like, you got to go to your doctor on Monday, and they're saving lives, like, because of people just don't seem to go to the dermatologist unless they really like, and they're hard to get appointments sometimes. So
Yeah.
they're doing an amazing thing. And maybe this, even if this is one of those shows where someone sees it and hears about it and they're like, I'm gonna go get my check. So it's making a major difference, and I appreciate you doing it. You know.
Oh man, I'm
you know,
excited.
they're great people. So anywho, I'll see you in Tysons, Virginia. We're looking forward to it. I'm loving going over these tunes. The band is super fired up, and I know the people are going to be psyched. So have some safe
And
travels.
send me some ideas for the set that you like. Just remember, keep hooked towards the end.
Oh
and,
yeah, no problem.
Generally, the way I do it is run around sort of in the beginning, but anyway, kind of in the middle, and hook towards the end. It's a good way to space out those. Those are the three people seem to be into. I guess Mountains Wind is somewhere in there, but
oh yeah,
you know what? Working on, we'll make up a good list, and I'm just looking forward to getting to play with you, man. The thing I learned that you can fucking hang, you can jam, so that's all
I'll do my best, man. You know, I like being the songwriter, but I love guitar, and I love the Allmans. I love the Dead and Clapton. I grew up in all that. I knew I wasn't going to be Eddie because I just don't have that in me, but you know, I'd like to admire.
You have you.
Yeah, you. I saw
you.
This kid came over the other night. He's like, I got to give a speech for school council, man. Well, I'm so stressed. I'm like, you're the most likable kid, my son's friend. I'm like, just be yourself, man. You got it. You don't need to worry about anything else. So, anywho, well, thanks, John. Have a great night, and I'll see you in Tysons.
All right.
Later, my friend.
Please welcome Mr. John Popper from Blue Shout. It's okay if John hangs out a little while.